Automatics in the trunk. Shoot the maggots with the pump. Thought it natty. Love the paddock on my arm. He got static. Pussy nigga, run your charm. Ghostface killers. Wu-Tang. 21 News Gang. Drug dealers in the Mulsanne. At the top of the food chain. Trapping the cocaine. No game. Shooter with no names. You can play toe games. The whole game. Kicking your domain. Yeah. Put on the paddock. Pop it setting. I'm an addict. Break the mattress with a batty on the attic. Diamond glasses, need some glasses for the flashes, yeah. Michael Jackson with the fashion, bitch, I'm dabbing, yeah. I do this shit on purpose, got the bitches slurping, whoa. All your pockets on hurting, nigga, you could be my servant. Go to the line, young nigga, don't listen, I purchase. After I cut up a thought, I give her some money for service, yeah. Wherever I go, the whole gang gon' go, yeah. You cannot tame the hoe because she won't fame for sure. You think that you rich cause you got 100 or more. I got an overload, look like I just sold my soul. I pour up before a liter, I got the stripes, Adidas. I got a farm, mama, see it, and I've been known to beat it. Niggas ain't going defeated, we get the guns immediate. No running the group is an idiot, you niggas is broken, it's pitiful. Automatics, in the trunk. Shoot the maggots with the pump. Thought it natty, love the paddock on my arm. He got static. Pussy nigga, run your charm. Ghostface killers, Wu-Tang. 21 News Gang. Drug dealers in the Mulsanne. At the top of the food chain. Trapping the cocaine. No game. Shooter with no names. You can play toe games. The whole game. Kicking your domain.
Yeah. Kim Jong, yeah, big bomb. Wonder bread, man, make your bitch lick crumb. Yeah, out of my pocket, flooded, got my wrist numb. Link, grab the hit stick, nigga tryna blitz some. Dope boy, I sell coke, boy. You broke ass rappers food, it's a pole, boy. Everybody the same, all these niggas sound alike. Yeah, Fox 5 gang, turn you to a candlelight. Bitch boy on my mob stuff, shrimp and my pasta. Jamaican dun da da, hang round the shotters. Mad Max, nigga, yeah, hang with the killer. Planet of the Apes, yeah, I hang around gorillas. I got AK, SK, HK, broad day. You a fuck boy, we ain't with the horseplay, bitch. Trump ass nigga, did you do your chores today? Do you wanna take a ride with the coroner today?
Automatics in the trunk. Shoot the maggots with the pump. Thought it natty, love the paddock on my arm. He got static. Pussy nigga, run your charm. Ghostface killers, Wu-Tang. 21 News Gang. Drug dealers in the Mulsanne. At the top of the food chain. Trapping the cocaine. No game. Shooter with no names. You can play toe games. The whole game. Kicking your domain. Drop from the heaven straight in the wild. Trunk in the front, top gotta slide.
I mean, Connor McDavid, he might be the biggest fraud in all the land. McDavid stinks. He's a softie. What a joke. Oh, man, it's tough to watch.
Gunnar Henderson is not invited to the White Boy Center.
If I was at that game and Zach Campbell came running down, breathing down my neck to catch a home run ball, he would catch an elbow to the nostrils. That's a fact.
He's looking like he's a fucking outfielder in the World Series, man. He's standing in the stand in right field.
He put his glove up there. It wasn't even anywhere close. It looks like Victor Robles playing defense for the Mariners. This guy wasn't even in the same state as catching that home run ball. Check the guy's vision. Somebody put some glasses on Pa. He can't see a thing.
100 fly ball, 100 fly ball, 100 fly ball.
No way.
Oh, yeah!
No fucking way, Trent.
Out of 10 of them, see what I'm saying? I'ma make them see what I'm saying. First they won't smoke, now they just playing. Nigga real hoes, you know what I'm saying?
What's going on, chat? Can I get some 10s?
Get some 4s.
L Echoes, W Stream, WBTL in person. Let me get a 10. Let me get a 4. Let me see them in chat. Drop them. We should be good now. We're back. Let me see some 10s. Let me see some dubs.
Echoes. Good now. There
Dubs.
we go.
All right, there we go, chat. Hashtag gratitude. There you go, fat girls.
Gratitude.
Welcome to BTL episode 512 piece. As always, hold the fry, joined by your two hosts, Krabs and Jovan, presented by Bookit Sports. If you're not tracking on Bookit, what are you waiting for? A sign from the Lord himself? Okay, figure it out. Lock in. Start tracking your bets on Bookit. You will be a better sports bettor because of it. All right, go check out Bookit Sports. Use promo code Jovan and start tracking your bets today. All right. Jovan, how we doing? Happy Thursday.
Doing great. A little worse after watching the Hample doc. I
Yeah.
really don't know if I'm ever going to recover from that. And I know you probably won't either.
Chad, what do we think about the Hample doc? You know, I thought at times it was going to make me look like a piece of shit for roasting that guy, but I feel like, honestly, it might have built up my argument here a little bit. I mean, that guy is as square as they come. That guy, I heard someone in the documentary talk about him being a mix between an MLB player and an elite athlete, is what they compared him to. How much money did Zach Hample have to pay that guy to say that comment? 50 racks?
Yeah, probably something around there.
He probably
'Cause that
spent
was
all his YouTube funds on that documentary, just
That
getting
was-
people to slurp him.
actually incredible. Some of the stuff that we witnessed in that doc.
I've never seen somebody kiss a baseball more and just be more uncomfortable in my life watching it. It was the weirdest documentary in my entire life. This guy held out after catching A-Rod's 3,000th hit. He held out for 2 weeks just so he could get a media interview and be on TV next to A-Rod and hand the ball over himself. This guy is the epitome of a loser, and I really hope that he doesn't rub off on the kids anymore, because this is a problem at MLB parks. You go to the park for one reason and one reason only. Okay, that's to go watch a baseball game. You don't go to an MLB park to be a ball hawk and steal every single foul ball in sight and rob kids from memories that could last the rest of their life. Okay, you don't do that. If you do that, you are a bozo scum loser, and you don't understand how the world works. Okay, Zach Hample is the face of that argument. He's a bozo. And after watching that documentary, I only feel more passionate about that take. I can't stand that guy, and I really hope that he's retired at this point, or at least he slows down. The guy's got over 10,000 baseballs he's already caught. Over 10,000 baseballs. How many is enough? 20K?
Yeah.
Robinson
50K?
Cano, bad guy.
Robinson Cano and Manny Machado, terrible people.
No, just Robinson Cano.
We
Not
got
Manny
Zeldin
Machado.
coming in,
Fist up.
resubbing for 8 months. W. Zeldin. Love that. And Krabs said Megalodon rubber band ball. I lost it. Yeah, people forget the guy has a ginormous rubber band ball on his bed. And he has 700 pillows, I think is what he said in the documentary.
Yeah.
The guy is just a little off. Okay. And I'm not vibing with it. I'll be honest with you. Don't really care for the guy. All right. That was an atrocious documentary. It's reasons like that, Jovan, while we're getting rid of the wager wheel. Has to be done.
We're not getting rid of it.
Well, I'm trying
We're making it. I mean, we can get rid of it if we had enough squad rides in a row.
Sure.
But we're making it a weekly thing, so the punishments mean a little more.
Sure. All right, chat. I know I was muted in the beginning, but we're going to go over a couple things today. We talked about the Hample doc a little bit. We're going to talk NFL futures, some Goat Whale squares as well. Maybe if you're lucky, we'll get Trent up and moving and see if we can go over some squares with them too for the Goat Whale. TBD on that. All right, let's talk about the Dallas Wings. How about the Wings getting hot last night? Don't let them get hot. It might be too late. Getting a big-time win before the All-Star break, which I believe the game is on Saturday, if you guys are looking for bets this weekend. But I'll tell you what, the Dallas Wings, they showed so much heart. All right, Caitlin Clark had an unbelievable game. 20 points, 20 assists, something like that. Unbelievable. She was absolutely diamond like she was Chris Paul. But it wasn't enough. The Dallas Wings, the worst team in the WNBA, won outright, and they got it done. Jovan, it was always the Wings. Pretty soft, you didn't tell.
Yeah, I didn't trust, and I didn't really care to get involved in any wagers yesterday, but you were sharp. And I could tell the more you started explaining the spot, I kind of got down with it, but I didn't get to the counter. So props, because that was air.
I will say I deserve the punishment with my Moose picks. I will. I'm not even going to spend time bouncing back or coming back to that. There's a reason why I'm still up here. There's a reason why the squad rides are 40 games over 500. Okay, who else is doing this? You go on Twitter today, you see, half of gambling Twitter's quitting, hanging them up, putting out graphics like they're retiring from the NFL. We're still here. We're still grinding. There's a reason for that. Okay, there's a reason you're watching, right? Let's lock in. Give me a break. Dallas Wings came through. The only play yesterday, huge. All right, let's shift our focus here a little bit. I had some really good food at the All-Star break, had some really good food at the Home Run Derby, got some Pluckers wings as well. People forget they got a Pluckers tucked away in the outfield at the Ranger Stadium. Jovan, I don't know if you saw this, but they have a crazy hot dog taco that the Royals just dropped. I wanted to show chat this. Would you guys muck this puppy? Or is this a little bit too much? Is it a little bit too extra? I was talking with the boys before this. They were not vibing with it. I feel like I would probably destroy it and enjoy this taco, to be honest with you. It's like a cheeseburger hot dog taco with sriracha Cracker Jacks.
Why are we putting Cracker Jacks
That's
on?
what we got going on.
I can get with everything except the Cracker Jack. Because like a hot dog cheeseburger crossover with what else? Like, is there fries in it? Like some onions
there's
or whatever?
fries.
When they say buy you peanuts and Cracker Jacks in songs, they don't expect you to put them on this.
Yeah, like
That is true.
I'm not trying
That
to
is
bite
true.
into a hot dog cheeseburger taco and then all of a sudden, boom, caramel popcorn. Like I think I'm good on that
Tilted.
part of it.
Now, are the hot dog, if you look at the hot dog right there, it looks like someone took a bite out of a hot dog and stuck it right back in the bun, right? Is somebody biting the dogs, splitting them up, spitting them in a bucket?
Bobby Witt and Vinny P. They bite
spitting them in a
put 'em
can
on
and
there.
then putting them in a hot dog bun? Is that what they're doing?
Split dogs.
Some split dogs.
Trent knows all about that.
That's
strategy.
a veteran move.
Yeah.
That's a veteran move. That's how Trent conquered his more than, what was it, 10.5 hot dog line?
12 and a half?
What was it, 11.5?
11.5?
No, it's 10.5.
10.5.
10.5.
Yes.
10.5. People forget he ate 11 dogs.
That's
crazy.
dogs.
All right, W's. Chat, would you guys muck this thing or not? Taco Bell said, hold my beer. Yeah, that looks like something Taco Bell would make.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
we do ever make our way out to Kaufman, that's going to have to be a mandatory try.
Mm.
I'm not taking a bite of
I'll take a bite. I just know it's going to be moose because of that Cracker Jack.
Should we talk about the play today or wait until tomorrow? Madul's saying, what's up, Madul? Our CFL sharp. Let's wait till tomorrow, my man. No rush. All right, keep labbing. Make sure that line doesn't move any weird ways. I would love to tail a CFL or whatever the hell league it is play for the weekend. All right,
Dave,
Madul.
bro.
I'll expect
Dave
you here
Knox.
tomorrow, my man. Okay?
Is it Booger Bomb time?
It might be Booger Bomb time.
Booger Bomb is crazy.
Let's switch the focus to NFL. I want to talk some football here. We're going to go over some win totals, some goat whale squares, and even some NFL hot takes we've got for this upcoming season. Would love to talk about the Booger Bomb that dropped last night. You know, people, they might say it's a little bit early for a Booger Bomb. I think this is perfectly timed. And knowing how square, I guess you could call Booger, I'm a little bit concerned after this comment, but he said that he wouldn't be surprised if Jaden Daniels ends up being better than Caleb Williams this season. That's a Booger Bomb if I've ever heard one myself. Jovan, thoughts on this comment? Is there any chance that Jaden Daniels outperforms Caleb Williams in year one?
You know, I'm a Jaden Daniels guy. You know that. He's going to be in my goat well, 100%. I just don't know because Caleb Williams is in such a good situation. And I think it's very underrated, the situation outside of the organization that Jaden Daniels is going in himself. But I don't know if he'll outperform him. I don't know about that much. But I think he's going to be a lot better than people think.
We got Auto Gelato coming in, resubbing. This is my Steph Curry month. He's saying, W Auto Gelato.
W Gelato.
Sure. 30-month bang. Love that. That could be the kiss of death from Booger. Richie Parlay saying in chats, yes, it could be.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels been getting a lot of hype. That could be what pushes him over the edge here and leads to a horrendous first season. I don't know. I'm not very happy to see Booger supporting my guy because that guy's probably the squarest dude in all the land and just keeps getting demoted from the Booger cart to, you know, NFL sidelines to college football. I don't even know what this fucking guy does anymore. And if he even has a job, but the Booger Bomb has been dropped. Okay. He thinks Jaden Daniels, my guy, is going to be better than Caleb. I don't know about that one, coach, but I love to hear it. Maybe just not from him. Okay. Jovan, let's pivot. Let's talk about some NFL win totals here. I want to go over the Panthers, talk about them. Nobody believes in the Panthers. Jovan, nobody wants to bet on this Panthers team after what they saw last year, right? Bryce Young, clearly not the better quarterback, you know, to CJ Stroud, like everyone expected initially. The Panthers were atrocious last year. He had no O-line. He had no time to throw. Didn't have many weapons, and their defense was nothing special. You know, this year, I wouldn't mind buying some stock in the Panthers, Jovan. Their win total is at 5.5. What are your thoughts on the Carolina Panthers?
I love the Panthers, and I hate to say it as a fan of a team who's going to play them twice a year because they're probably going to drop one. But I love everything they're building there. And I hate to say it, not just because the Bucs are going to play them, but because one of the reasons that I really believe in them is because of Dave Canales, who's been a noted offensive guru, noted QB whisperer. He led the Geno Smith resurgence. He just did it with Baker, and a little earlier in his career, he's getting the chance with Bryce Young now this season, going into his second year. But I've liked the staff especially that he's built because, like, I'm all in on Canales. I think he's great. But when you look up and down the staff that he's built there, obviously you have Canales. Then you go to the OC there. You know the OC is, Krabs? Brad Idzik, who was the wide receivers coach for the Bucs last season under Canales.
Brad Cornelson?
Yeah, not Cornelson, thankfully for Bryce Young. But Brad Idzik was the wide receivers coach for the Bucs that Baker Mayfield was in love with. Obviously, he got to manage, you know, really high talent group of guys between Mike Evans, future Hall of Famer, Chris Godwin, you know, a lot of loaded names in that wide receiver room, and they managed them pretty well. The schemes were incredible, which is why, despite everything, like, Baker looked ridiculously comfortable last year. The wide receiver schemes worked perfectly to his strengths. So what do you think he's going to bring to a wide receiver room that was depleted last season? They brought in some pieces that I think are going to work seamlessly. So not only do they have him, I think the offense is going to be absolutely smooth. They've talked about I think Canales said specifically, like, they have a target time that he's supposed to get the ball out of his hands this season, which is like, it's like he wants it under 2.6 seconds, which is like the same thing that he was doing with Baker for parts last season. So everything, like, I'm in the Bryce Young bounce back season, of course, but the pieces they built around him are great. And to your point about the defense, it actually is really good. And bring up the tweet, Goots, because I think this is really important too. Dave Canales, who was a offensive coordinator in the same division, he said he's not coming here unless the DC, Edgy Overo, stayed. So this is a guy who faced him twice a year, and I think after they played him in Carolina in that disgusting, what was it, 9-0 game to close the season where the Bucs barely made the playoffs and scraped a win. Fuck that game. But he was slurping him after that game, and he's been slurping him all season last season because whatever he's building over there is great. Like, the secondary is great. They even lost, Brian Burns, and like the pressure rates were even higher than they were with him in there. Like, their defense is solid, and I think it's a slept-on unit in that division. So the Panthers are getting 6 wins, and I would not be surprised. Like, I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they're going to be a lot more in the mix of it for longer in the season than people think.
They'll have a relatively easy schedule.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule, that goes without saying. They're the last place team, and their schedule is really, really soft. And I think they have, first couple games outside of, I know they play the Saints in the Superdome to start the season, but after that, I think they have a couple games against defenses to kind of get their footing under them. I think they play the Raiders and the Chargers. So I think early on, we're going to find out that, Dave Canales is a really good head coach, and everything they're building up there is trending upwards. So, like, I'm, again, as a Bucs fan, a little worried this year, but definitely worried for, the next year or two to come.
Let's go through their schedule real quick. I want to see how many wins we could find, because that over 5.5 wins for the Carolina Panthers is looking at me funny. Okay. Could be the sneakiest over on the win totals on the entire board.
It was 4.5 as well.
Wow.
At about the same juice when it opened. So it's gone up a lot.
W bumpage. All right, let's go through this schedule here. They open up at the Saints. That's a sneaky spot that they could end up pulling off an upset. Who knows? I feel like they probably split, shock the world, and win one of the first 2 games, either at the Saints or, welcoming in the Chargers, who are still going to be working out the kinks with their new coach. I would not be shocked to see the Panthers steal one of those first 2 games. Right?
I think just in the division in general, they split, even like last year, like the Falcons were one of their 2 wins. Like, I think they split with 2 of the teams minimum between the Saints, Falcons, Bucks.
Sure.
So I think they can get 2 out of those.
Okay. So 2, then they go play in Vegas. That's probably a tough game. They also play the Bengals, who I'm kind of high on this year, and then the Bears. They probably win one of those 3. They're probably sitting 2-3 through those games.
Yeah.
Right. And they play the Falcons at home. They play the Commanders, which is going to be a sketchy game. I could so see the Panthers squeaking that one out.
So see them squeaking that
I'd say they win one of those 2 between the Falcons and the Commanders. Right. So now they're what? They got 3 wins, I believe. And then we play the Broncos, the Saints again, and the Giants there. They probably win one of those 3 as well. That's 4. We go to the Chiefs. That's an L. But then they play the Bucks, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Cardinals. I'd say they win one of those 4 games. That puts them at 5 wins. And then they have 2 games left between the Bucks and the Falcons. They're winning one of those 2 games. That's 6 wins with these, and that was being very generous with it too.
Yeah. And again,
I think 7 as well.
I think my confidence in the back half of that schedule, even though there's certainly tough spots, is going to go up as the season progresses.
Yeah, those last 3 games, they got the Cardinals, the Bucks, and the Falcons. I could easily see them going 2-1 in those games to close out the season strong with a lot of young guys as they continue to get better through their second season.
I think their floor in the division is 2-4.
Wow.
So
if that's what you think their floor is,
I think they're 100% splitting at the very least with 2 of those teams, which in all likelihood, they always play the Saints and the Falcons tough. The Bucks games are either really close or a blowout. So I think they can split with all 3 of those teams.
Yeah, it's going to come down to those division games. Sure.
It's going to come out of those division games.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to be. I think the Saints could bottom out this season. So all those games are also really tough and really split. I wouldn't be surprised if they sweep them, especially early in the season. They play in the Superdome. Really weird things happen. If people haven't noticed, when the Saints host a division opponent in the Superdome, aka remember Ryan Fitzmagic going early in the season to put 48 up on them. I think the same thing could happen early in the season. But regardless, I think they're splitting 2 of those at the least, but I think they can split all 3 of them.
Well, looking at Chad, it seems like the Panthers shouldn't even lace him up.
I know.
this
Shouldn't even
season.
lace them up.
They're just going to they take the 0-16, they forfeit all the games, and then we move on to next year, 2026.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, no one at this point in time should be saying that no one's beating Herbert. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
absolutely
People
crazy.
beat Herbert more often than they don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
Okay. And we don't know shit about that team this year. They got a new coach, new system, new everything. Okay. I
I got one word for you, Javon. Keep pounding.
Keep pounding. Okay. Insane slogan they got down there in Carolina.
Yeah,
But we're
it's
buying
wild.
stock in the Panthers this year and Bryce Young. We will see how it plays out. Okay. What about the Texans, Javon? I want to talk about the Texans here. Probably the most trendy team this all season that's
By
being talked about,
far, dude.
right? People are very impressed with CJ Stroud's rookie season, as they should be. That was unbelievable. If only somebody said he was going to be the best QB in the class before the season started. Cough, cough, me. CJ Stroud is a goat. Anyways, we're fading the fuck out of him this season and taking his under win total because it's simply too damn high. It really is. And you can get it at plus money under 9.5 wins for them to stay, away from double digits at plus 120. And their schedule's tough, Javon. They went from having the fourth easiest schedule in the NFL last season to having the fourth most difficult schedule this year in the NFL. Good luck. You don't think there's going to be some adjustments made, kind of like we saw against Joe Burrow in his second season, kind of like we've seen against a lot of these young QBs in their second year? People are talking about him making a big step. What step is he going to make? He already had an elite season. It seems like he's kind of dicking around the offseason, is doing the podcasts. He's not really locked in. Who knows? And it's still early, but doesn't really seem like he's super, super focused right now on the football field. I kind of want to fade the Texans, who just got Stephon Diggs. Everyone's buying stock in this Houston team. They was supposed to be atrocious last year. Nobody believed in Stroud. They overperformed. I want to sell high on a Texans team that I was pretty high on last year. They came through for us. Honestly, made a lot of money betting that team. But this year, it's going to be a little different. There's going to be adjustments that are made. After all these coaches have an offseason of film on CJ Stroud, I don't think he will be as sharp as everybody's expecting. Okay, everyone already has him locked in as the MVP this season. People on ESPN yesterday were talking about the Houston Texans going to the Super Bowl. They were talking about that. Okay, that is when we fade. It's simple. All right, they're going to be the most popular future bets, most popular over win total, probably the most popular play to win that division. I'll tell you what, that division is not going to be a cakewalk this year.
No.
They're going to have some trouble, and they have a tough schedule.
Yeah, and people forget. I mean, this is a team who I believe they had the last place schedule last year.
They had the fourth easiest schedule in the NFL last year.
Yeah, I was just talking about in terms of the division because they finished last in the division.
Sure.
So it's a wild difference when you come from last to first, and it fits the system, Krabs, because every single year we fade the most popular division winner, and every single year we hear this team is going to take a massive step up. How could you fade them? Well, example Jaguars from last year, who had the biggest collapse I think we've seen for a playoff spot in the division in the last handful of years. So it always happens some way, and I think it's definitely going to happen with the Texans because, I mean, even with injuries, like everything seemed to go right for them last season, and they got every bounce, they got every clutch moment. CJ Stroud looked impeccable. If you're looking for that additional step, I mean, not that he can't get better, but what more could he do for that team that you didn't see last season? It's like, as far as the 9.5 win goes, yeah, it's a little overinflated. Like I would gladly take my step at the Jags after fading them last year. We get a T-Law comeback season where he's fully healthy, obviously, and they retooled there. Got Brian Thomas, who I'm super excited about. Then you have the Colts in that division who, they're getting AR back for hopefully a full season too, that everybody would love to see under a really good offense with Steichen. So, yeah, I'm definitely buying the other teams, probably not named the Titans in that division, and I am surely not buying the Texans.
Let's look at the Texans schedule because I want to pick it apart. It's tough.
It is pretty tough.
And it's not an easy start to the year. I could see the Texans coming in this year fat, happy, complacent, thinking their shit doesn't stink after a great season that nobody expected last year, and they get spanked in the first game of the season against the Colts on the road. I could see that like it was yesterday. I'll tell you right now, have a feeling the Colts will be getting some line respect in that game, maybe even a favorite, and I will be on the Colts in that game. I'm buying the hype, okay?
Yeah.
Then they got to play the Bears. That could be a loss as well. If Caleb Williams is as good as everyone thinks, that's going to be a tough game too, and that's a tough defense to play as well out there in Chicago.
Yeah.
That's a tough game. They could start 0-2.
I'm just looking at, like, for a team with a 9.5 win total, I want to have spots that I feel super confident about. Like early in the season, I don't see one until you could argue, like, what is that, week 6 at New England, even though, like, it's at New England, so weird shit always happens in those games. Just like when they went to, like, they go to MetLife and they got pounded last year. Like, I don't see many spots where I'm like, okay, this team is going to surely dominate. Like at Indianapolis in a weird game to open the season. We don't know what the Bears are going to be with Caleb Williams. We sure as hell don't know what the Vikings are going to be early in the season. And back to a division opponent with the Jags, back to the Bills. And then like now you're getting to the Patriots. Like this is not the schedule of a team that I think is just going to dominate.
Every single one of their games is sketchy. Every single one. All 17. Okay. It starts out a game on the road in Indianapolis. Good freaking luck. That's going to be a tough matchup there week 1. The Bears, Caleb Williams could be the best quarterback of all time. Who knows? We haven't seen him yet. The Vikings, I think, are going to be sneaky good. Great coach. I love that organization up there. They win. They figure it out. I think I'm going to buy stock on them this year when nobody believes after they don't have Kirk. The Jaguars, bounce back year. I believe in them as well. That's a tough game too, even if it's at home. They got to play the Bills, who are going to be extra motivated this year. They got to play at New England, like you're saying. That's a sketchy game. They got to play at the Jets. That's also a sketchy game. The Lions, very good team.
Like as much as I just gassed up the front half of that schedule, but look at the back half too. The last 2 months,
every single game.
Yeah, like they're
It's
going
sketchy.
Lions, then they're going to AT&T on Monday night to play the Cowboys.
Good luck.
They have 2 games on this back half, right on Thanksgiving week, I think, and then final game against the Titans. Those are whatever. But in between then, it is in Jacksonville, it is in Kansas City, and then it's hosting the Dolphins and the Ravens. I don't know how you can look at that schedule and confidently say that team is guaranteed winning 10 games.
There's no way. There's no way. I mean, they'll be lucky to have a winning record this season.
I wouldn't say that. I think they can win 9 if everything goes good.
All right,
Say
so
that.
by the skin of their teeth.
By the
they go
skin of
over
their
500.
teeth. But I mean, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know, guys. This schedule looks sketchy to me. I want to sell high on CJ Stroud and the Texans. I don't see a single game on the schedule that looks like an easy win. Out of the 17 games, not a single easy dub. That's going to be tough to get 10-plus wins.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. All right? Fading that team this year.
Especially when, I mean, they had one of the best, clutch time one-score records in the NFL last year, if I'm not mistaken. And I can guarantee you, if they're going to have a shot in any of these games, they're going to be close games. They're not going to be running through Joe Flacco and the Browns like they did in the wild card round, or I guess vice versa, like it was in the end of the season. It's like these are tough games that are going to be coming down to the wire. And we talked about it in college football. We talked about it in baseball. Teams that are very fortunate the year before, when they face a really tough schedule the next year, it usually evens itself out.
All right. Pretty good read there on the Texans. I don't know how much chat's vibing with it, but I don't know if that's a bad thing.
I think it's a good thing. I think it's a great thing.
All right, let's talk about some goat whale squares. All right, enough talking about some win totals. I know you guys want to get in the lab for prize picks. Look at some of these squares for the NFL season.
Might have Trent up and moving too.
Yeah, let's see if he's up and moving. We got Chris Godwin. Jovan, what do you want to talk about him about?
Yeah, I'm getting it moving. I'm thinking about putting him in the go well. Same thing, like coaching staff changes, I think, are a big part of the NFC South, especially this season, because they're getting Liam Cohen, who I'm super excited about, where it's a little different offense than it was with Dave Canales at the helm. So like now you're going to see, I don't know if you can put the tweet up, Goods, for Godwin, but they've talked all offseason about how he's going to play primarily in the slot. Last year, they were trying to put him on the outside so they could have what seemed like an ideal thing, like Mike on one side on the X and then Godwin on the other, running on the outside. That didn't work. That's why Godwin had one of his worst seasons, or probably the worst season since he came in the league. Now he's going to be in the slot. Liam Cohen happens to be a Sean McVay disciple. And who worked in the slot when he was over there with Sean McVay, Krabs?
Who?
That would be Cooper Kupp. So that is like the emphasis of his offense. He likes to run the ball. They like to run a lot of these concepts over the middle in the slot. That's where Godwin's been really productive in his first couple seasons with the Bucs. They got away from that last year. They're going to get back to that this year. So this is a guy, I think he has like potential. If you're talking about fantasy lineups, I think he might outscore Mike Evans this year. Even though I still am pretty high on what they're going to do as an offense, but Godwin just might be my guy.
Okay, could be Godwin season. Is Mike Evans going less than 1,000 yards this year?
We're not going down that road again, unfortunately. Can't do that.
Can't be done. Well,
Trent muted.
Is he in here?
He is in here.
Wow. There he is. All right, I want to talk about a square. Unless you got anything else to add about Godwin.
No, but
what do you about to fade for him, though?
I'm not fading.
Or what do you about to take for him? His yards?
Yards, yeah.
Okay.
Still muted, Trent? Distribute it.
And GG.
But
All
what's put up the square real quick, dude, so we can see the number. Godwin. Because I don't know if I saw him on the board initially. But yeah, now he's up here, 925.5. You're backing him after his worst season of his career.
I can hear him now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
What's up, East?
Any way to turn that up a little bit, Goots, so we can hear it?
Nick is there. Trying to talk.
10s check.
There
There
he
we go. That
is.
works.
There he is. Sure, we
go.
can. Trent, how we doing? We're talking about some goat well squares here. I'm sure you're a little interested.
I'm very intrigued. WSL job on Godwin.
Sure. Can I take you to a ram, Trent?
Sure.
You might not like the square, but let me take you to a ram. I want to fade Kyron Williams this year. I do. Kyron Williams had a legacy season in 2023, although he was banged up and hurt at times, but he won some people their fantasy football leagues. Straight up. He was an absolute animal. For the first time since I've ever witnessed Sean McVay be a head coach for the last, 10 plus years, they ran with one running back for the majority of the season, at least when Kyron was healthy. Okay. That's not what Sean McVay does. And that's why Sean McVay went out and got a running back this year from Michigan. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. Blake Corum. Absolute stud from Michigan, won a national championship. The kid's an absolute machine, underrated in my opinion. Kid's a winner. And there's a reason why Sean McVay drafted him, because Sean McVay knows that Kyron Williams has glass bones, and he wants to go back to having a running back by committee, because that's what Sean McVay does. So you're going to see Blake Corum right off the rip get some reps and steal some from Kyron. They're going to try to preserve Kyron throughout the season, because last year they overused him in the beginning. He got hurt. I think it'll be a much different approach for Kyron this year. They'll use him more in the red zone, right? Because he was such a big touchdown threat last season. And I want to fade Kyron Williams rushing yards at 975.5. Number one, the guy's an absolute menace, catching the football on screens and shit. I don't really want to fade that, because in space, the kid's an absolute menace. I just want to fade his rushing yards, because I think you're going to see Blake Corum take a lot of those reps from Kyron, which is going to surprise a lot of people.
You know what? I'll point this out too for you, Krabs, because we were talking about the draft. I think I brought this up quite a bit, and I was surprised that they ended up going edge with the first two rounds, but especially in the first round, because this is the first round pick that Sean McVay has been able to have since he's been a head coach of the Rams. I would have thought, or I did think, that they were going to go offensive weapon there, because he was going to hang his hat on that since this is his first chance. I can guarantee you there was something that he was sold about putting Blake Corum with this offense if he passed, knowing that he was going to be there in the third round.
Yep.
So this has got to be something that I think he's all into, making him a bigger part of the offense this season. And, I don't know the exact numbers, but Kyron Williams was averaging like 20 yards a carry for the back half of the season. Those guys have, if you've heard any of those little TikToks about fantasy fades going into next season, I can guarantee you Kyron Williams fits the mold.
Agreed.
For sure does.
100% does.
Agreed. Hate to fade the Ram, hate to fade the Notre Dame Legends.
Bullshit square.
But it has to be done.
I can respect that sell job.
I got one more nasty fade for you, Trent, and then I want to hear what you're crafting and what Javon's got. But I got one more for you. I can't keep it in anymore. Okay, because this is a winner. I want to fade Geno Smith this season. I want to fade Geno Smith. Okay, the Seattle Seahawks, look, I think they've seen enough out of Geno Smith. I think they know his peak. I think they know what they got with him. I don't think he's getting any better. Honestly, I think he's overperformed a little bit at times the last couple seasons, and there's a reason Seattle went out and made that trade with the Commanders to bring in Sam Howell. There were two teams that really wanted Sam Howell. Not many people did. Most people, you look at Sam Howell and you don't really dive into the numbers or actually watch him fucking play because he's on the Commanders. You see the interceptions, you think he's moose shit. You see he's a Commanders quarterback who we just traded for a couple picks or whatever. You think he's moose shit. Sam Howell got snubbed. Sam Howell is going to be an NFL quarterback in this league. I'm telling you right now, if he didn't have a team that gave up on him, if Ron Rivera wasn't the head coach of that team, he would have been much, much better, and he would not be in the spot he's in right now and having to go switch teams. I still believe in Howell. This is honestly more of a Geno fade, though, because I know that if Seattle sees Geno, even at the same level he was the last couple seasons, I feel like that team knows his peak. It's not much higher than what he's done the last couple years, and they might try to switch some things up. There's a reason why they made that trade to bring in Sam Howell. That was not just for him to be the backup. They want to see what they've got with him, and I've heard good things at a camp from Sam Howell. I think it's Geno Smith's last season, and I don't think he makes it through the whole year. He's going to get benched at some point this season for Sam Howell, and if you look at the books, his passing yards and his passing touchdowns is way lower than what it's at on Prize Picks, probably because they haven't moved it down yet. All right, I want to take fade his passing touchdowns. The yard scares me a little bit. I don't think the Seahawks are going to be that good this season, so he might be passing a lot, some garbage time there. But his touchdowns is at 21.5 on the books, or 21.5 on Prize Picks, but 20.5 on the books. Get this now before it gets bumped down.
Great sell job, Krabs.
It's got to be the Geno Smith fade this year.
Krabs' Addy is hitting different this morning.
Yeah. The NFL squares are getting me juiced up.
All right, now give Trent some goats.
Juiced up.
Now give him some goats. What do you got, Trent?
I'm tailing Krabs' go well for sure.
Has to be done.
Will those two be in it?
Those will probably be in it, more likely than not. Those are the two that I'm looking at right now where those are my two faves. So, yes.
Love it. Love it.
Jovan, you got anything that Trent would potentially want to tail that he would like? Any guys who are big name stars who you're taking more thans for?
Yeah, I got one loaded up in the tank.
Ooh.
Really like Saquon Barkley this year.
Wow.
The Eagles. And I guess we can foreshadow to the hot take segment. I think him in that offense is going to do similar things. I've seen this quote floating around, so it's not original, but I agree that he's going to do similar things to what CMC did for the 49ers offense.
Right.
And that's not me acknowledging, or that's not me saying that Kyle Shanahan is Sirianni or that CMC is Saquon and vice versa. But I think this is going to be transformative for that offense, and partially because it has to be, because they lost Jason Kelsey. They lost, a little beef on the offensive line, which that's going to do Krabs less Jalen Hurts designed runs, which is partially because of that. It's partially because of Kellen Moore. That's not really in his offensive bag. But on the other side, like, they went out and got Saquon, which damn well Giants fans are going to be in piss at some point watching the Eagles bust with Saquon Barkley, but also they ain't making that move. They ain't all in to make the offense revolve around him. And Kellen Moore has made that very specific. And I don't think people fully realize, they love to talk about Kellen Moore's air raid style offense, but don't realize, I saw the stat floating around too, last 4 years that he was with the Cowboys, they ranked 5th in rushing attempts in the league. So he runs the ball a lot more than people think. And I think them getting Saquon is not just let's get a talented guy to have somebody to back on with Jalen Hurts, but I think they want to transform the style of running. They got DeAndre Swift and Gainwell and the whole committee to run stretch on the outside. Now I think they're going to try to run more between the tackles, and I think they're going to do it very often, a lot more than people think, and it's going to be less Jalen Hurts and more Saquon Barkley. So I think Saquon Barkley's ceiling is as high as any running back in the league. And as much as I hate the Eagles, I think they're going to be damn good, and he's going to be damn good.
Well, that sucks for me as a Commanders fan, but hell of a sell job.
I have some breaking Commanders news, Krabs.
Whoa.
No way you have breaking Commanders news.
Jason Wright has moved out of his role as the Commanders president and will leave the organization by the end of 2014 season.
That is a massive development. That guy is a bozo.
Wow.
We have been waiting for this moment. Get Jason Wright out of here.
Give Krabs the floor.
Get him out. That guy is a fucking bozo. Words come out of his mouth that have zero meaning. The guy has just been latching on. He latched on to Dan Schneider. He was his guy, his sidekick. They kept him around for a couple months. Get that bozo out of here. That dude didn't do shit. His job was to go around with Dan Schneider and try to find new stadiums for the team. They didn't make any progress. This guy's just milking paychecks. Get Jason Wright out of here. What a fucking loser.
Can you do a Hample dance?
No, I'm not doing a Hample dance. I cannot believe we had to watch that doc, man. All the way through. Trent, please don't take Travis Kelce this year. I'm sure that won't be a hard sell, right?
Fuck no. Are you serious?
Please don't take him.
I got to say, though, Trent, the square is not on the board yet, but I think Trent has at a pretty surgical point about a potential INT fade that I think we can all get down with, and I might consider it too.
Let's hear it.
Fucking Josh Allen under interceptions.
Wow. Stephon Diggs leaves. Everybody's, packing up shop. Nobody believes in the Bills anymore. Everybody went all in the last 2 seasons on the Bills. Josh Allen finally does something, limits the picks this year. That could be sharp.
Yeah. He's coming off of 18, highest in his career. He's had 18, 14, and 15 his last 3 years. So we don't know the line yet. But I can tell you it's probably going to look very similar, not number-wise, but similar to the Dak interception line from last year.
Oh, my God.
Because it cannot be high enough for people to get invested. So what? It was 13.5 last year, and he went over by 4 or 5.
Jeez.
I guess that technically is, whatever it is. I would be down to fade those because that's another team. I mean, nobody's really buying the Bills because of everything that's going on.
Right.
I want to, too.
Yeah, dude. Trent, that's sharp, bro. Hopefully they put those up soon. We need the interception category like we need air. Need it.
Air,
Yeah.
bro.
All
you
right.
hear me?
What other goats have you been contemplating, Trent? Are there any guys you've been looking at? Anybody you want to talk through here?
Can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, word. Yes, I have a couple that I want your guys' opinions on. Let's start with Jared Goff.
Oof. Jared Goff. Well, spoiler, one of the hot takes for the end of the show is fading the Lions. But I want to hear you out here. That could be a good thing for Jared Goff potentially because they might be down in some games. He might be passing a little bit more trying to come back. So I'm not saying I hate the angle.
Yeah.
You looking at that passing yards or you looking at that passing touchdowns?
The yards.
The yards. You know, I don't hate it because just like I said, a lot of times when you're taking these quarterbacks, you know, more than passing yards, you're almost backing the team to not be as good, right? So you're almost backing the team to be losing games they shouldn't, coming back and getting some second half yardage. And I think the Lions are going to take a little bit of a step back this season.
Very true.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Let's see what his stats were the last couple of years. Jared Goff right now is at 4,025.5 season passing yards. Last year, he had
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
4,500.
He plays like I think 80% of his games in a dome this season.
Wow.
Again.
The Jared Goff dome narrative returns, huh?
And there he is.
Dome narrative does return.
Phils. What's up, Phils?
I mean, yeah, I'm looking at he doesn't have a game outside of a dome until week 9.
That's wild.
Because the only away games he has are Cardinals, Cowboys, and Vikings before that.
Huh. That's
So, I mean,
insane. So Jared Goff is going to be coasting early on in the season.
Well, so it's not like he has an easy schedule in that.
No,
Because
they
like he
don't.
plays the Rams, Bucks, Cardinals,
But that's
Seahawks,
that's almost a
Cowboys,
good thing.
Vikings. I mean, yeah, it
That's a
could
good
be
thing for sure.
a pretty good thing.
And rather than like picking somebody in that offense over yards or touchdowns, I'd rather just take the guy throwing it to him.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather you take that than take Amon-Ra, to be honest with you, because
Yes.
although Amon-Ra has been a GOAT, at some points he's going to go less than, right? The guy is not, I mean, he might be Randy Moss. Maybe I'm missing something here, but at some point he's going less than. And he's been an absolute cash cow. I would like going with the QB there with Goff, especially if they're going to be losing more games and playing from behind. I don't mind that.
Don't be afraid to tell me shit's cake. Krabs.
Oh, no, I will.
I need you to be
Yeah,
real.
You know I will. I've heard worse squares. What else you got?
Joe Burrow.
Yes. It's Joe Burrow season. All right. Might as well go over this hot take right now, guys. I think the Bengals, after finishing in last place in the AFC North last year, I think they win that division. I think the Bengals win that division. We got Goots and Rav getting pissed off in the corner right now. I don't blame them. I'm fading their teams there. But I think the Bengals at plus 165, the second shortest odds to win that division after being moose shit last year, I think they bounce back. I'm looking at the Ravens. I'm looking at the Steelers. And I'm looking at, I don't know why I'm blanking on the last team, the Browns. Almost forgot because they're going to be so moose shit this season. I think all those teams take a step back. And I think we see the Bengals, after being forgotten about, who, by the way, Joe Burrow has the best O-line he's had in his entire NFL career for this upcoming season, which has been the one flaw of that team. They finally got him some guys on the line. I think the Bengals are a great look at plus 165, and I would not mind backing Joe Burrow or at least somebody on that team.
Yeah, I like the Bengals this year too. I think the Ravens finished third in that division.
Whew.
I'll be taking their under wins.
That's just a spike comment.
It's not even a spike comment. I'm being 100% real with you. I think there's a
My
shot.
Uber's here. I'm going to the airport.
Yeah, go ahead and head to the airport. Which, I mean, quick Ravens nugget. I think a lot of what helped them last year is the fact they had a new offense, like the unpredictability of like what you're going to do different with Lamar. You saw that in the first season. I don't think you're going to see that in year 2. Plus, you're not going to get MVP level Lamar again with that news involved. But I do really like the Bengals. I'll tell you with that. I love Bengals, love Burrow, bounce back season. As long as he stays healthy, I think everything's going to go super well. Now,
his passing yards is a little bit lower on the books than it is on Prize Picks by about 50 yards. He's at like 4,000 on Prize Picks. He's at 3,950 on the books. Let me look at his touchdowns. Let's see what he's at for his tutties. His tutties on the books are 27.5, and the over's juiced. Interesting.
What book are you using?
Blue Book. Blue Book's got all the props up. That's interesting. That's one of the first. I mean, I've been looking at these, players and the props and the squares that correlates all morning. That's one of the first ones I've seen where it's actually higher on the books than it is on Prize Picks.
Rare.
Hmm.
Super rare. I will say though, Zach Moss is a fucking merchant who they got. He is a TD merchant.
Yeah, he is.
Huh.
That's what pissed me off. We see a surgical Burrow drive down to the 1, and Zach Moss, of course, just punches in for the 3rd time today.
You know, Trent, the 4,000 yards scares me a little bit that it's right at that perfect number. It looks like an easy more than click bounce back year, but that passing touchdowns I like. I think it's going to be the Bengals season. Are there any Bengals skill players that you would look to take, as a pivot? I like Burrow.
I don't know if you can pivot though, because like the whole T. Higgins situation kind of weirds me out.
Yeah.
It's like I guess you can take Jamar Chase. Like based on that, it's just I feel like that'll be kind of cooked into the line.
Yep.
It's like I don't really know. I'll just take Burrow because realistically, like if you're betting on Chase, Higgins, or anybody else in the Bengals, you're betting on Burrow to stay healthy for the whole season.
That's
How many
facts.
games do you think he plays, bro? That's the
All
biggest thing. If he plays 15 games, this is hitting.
The thing with passing yard squares is you got to.
No, I'm talking touchdowns. I'm talking touchdowns.
Same thing. Like all quarterback lines, you pretty much got to play the whole season.
I mean, look, you're buying stock in a guy who had a terrible fluky hand injury, right? He's going to be fully healthy heading into the season. He's got the buzz cut going this year. He means business. I wouldn't want to be fading buzz cut Burrow. That's for sure. Dude looks like a fucking serial killer out there.
Yeah.
Looks scary. He means business this season. He's locking in.
He played 16 games back-to-back, 2021, 2022. In both those years, he had 34 and 35 touchdowns.
Yep. You're buying stock low after he didn't really play much, right? I love the square. I think if you're going to square up and take a goat, take a more than, that's probably one of the better ones on the board right now. I like it. I like that a lot better than Jared Goff. I'll tell you that much. But I don't hate the golf square. What else you got, Grant?
Talk to me about. I think Saquon has a serious shot of being in here.
You do, huh?
I mean, only because I'm tailing. And I like the sell job.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any goat that's just really caught my eye, it's him.
I'm having a hard time finding a receiver, but I also want to hear your guys' thoughts on Bijan.
I like Bijan too.
I think Bijan goes off. You know what I'd like to take for Bijan, though? I'd like to wait and take his rushing receiving yard combo.
Yes.
Once they put that up. Because I think what they fucked up last year is they really struggled getting him the rock. You got to get him the fucking ball. I mean, I know you bring in Kirk Cousins. That's great and all, and that's honestly going to make less people want to back Bijan this season, probably. The fact that they brought in Kirk, an actual legitimate passer. I think it's going to be Bijan's year. I think you're going to see the dink and dunks, but I want his receiving yards too, man. I want them both.
Yeah, I would want those. The thing with like, you know what I think was pretty significant for me coming out of the Falcons camp this year, or at least this offseason. You see they're playing Kyle Pitts they want to play him at tight end and wide receiver, both. You know what that tells me, which I have been talking about this, and this was my suspicion from the start. Everybody thinks it was just an Arthur Smith and Desmond Ritter / Heineke problem. I don't think it ever was that. I think Kyle Pitts is a little bit of the issue too. I think he's just not that good and injured.
He might not be that guy, pal.
The thing that helps, I guess, with the offense is like they were not able to run the ball because he was also a terrible run blocker. So like they would go to the outside and they would get stuffed and they would never try it again. If they're moving him to the outside a little bit more now, they're going to have better run blocking in there. So Bijan maybe gets a few more touches there, added with the fact that it's a new offense with Kirk and you're not going to see as many stack boxes because Ritter and Heineke are not throwing the ball out there. It's like from a rushing aspect, I think there's a lot for Bijan, and then the receiving will come when it comes. But
it'll come when it comes.
Pause.
Jovan,
Views.
I want you to talk about Jaden Daniels' rushing yards because I don't want that square to get swept. I know we've talked about it already this offseason on BTL, but talk about why you like it, especially early, right? Because he might end up with a pretty good head start after week 1.
Especially early, and a lot of that has to do with I guess it's been the Bucs as like a whole, but like Todd Bowles especially, like we've gotten torched by running quarterbacks just because that's how they play. We play conservative zone defense with like the corners 10 yards off the receivers, and the D-line hasn't been stout enough to get home usually, and then they're going to blitz a lot. So as soon as he identifies the blitz, or a lot of the running quarterbacks do, they just run and they have all the room in the world. So like week 1, I'm certainly taking his rushing yards. That doesn't really have to do with the fact that I love his rushing yards for the season. But Jaden Daniels, I was looking at some numbers this morning too. He's one of the very few quarterbacks coming into the league. When you talk about the running quarterbacks, like a Kyler Murray, like a Jalen Hurts, like a Josh Allen, like any of them, that does not rely on design rushes or didn't coming into the NFL from college. So like every single quarterback had dramatic numbers except for Jalen Hurts for a little bit of like a drop off in design rushing coming into college. The highest scramble rate by all of them by far is Jaden Daniels. And now Jaden Daniels is coming into a situation where I know it's better, Krabs, the offensive line is, but it's still not great.
I don't know if I'd call them better.
I think it's a little better. I want to give him some credit, but it's still not good.
That's a good thing for Jaden Daniels rushing yards, in my opinion, because as the team figures out their new scheme, as the team figures out their new coach, right, their new OC, their new quarterback, we got a couple new guys in that line, we got Eckler involved. It's going to be a growing period in the beginning. Right?
It's going to.
And that tells me Jaden Daniels is not going to have as much time in the pocket as he will later on in the season. And you're going to see him probably taking off a lot more as he's still getting his feet under him as well, because that's what he's comfortable doing.
Yeah, and he has a very, very quick trigger to scramble whenever there's the slightest sense of danger. And I think we've seen that. At LSU, and it's been more apparent than I think any other quarterback we've seen recently coming out of college. So, like, I think he's going to be doing that all season.
There's a reason why Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson's rushing yard squares look so low.
Yeah.
There's a reason. Combine them both, they're barely over 1,000 yards between those two goats. Okay? There's a reason. It's because Jaden Daniels, who, by the way, is at $499.5 on Prize Picks. We already locked it in on one entry, but he's at $525.5 on the Blue Book.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he's getting bumped up. That's a rare line that's higher on the books than it is on Prize Picks. Again, I think Jaden Daniels, not saying he's going to be like Lamar Jackson out there, putting 1,000+ rushing yards on the board, but somewhere in the middle of 500 in a rack, 750. And I think he's going to drop 100 yards in the first game against your Bucks and their moose shit run defense. Trent, this is a great square to put in there potentially, because you get out to a great start after week 1 when the Commanders upset the Bucks down there in Tampa and he runs all over.
It's relaxing that part. But he's going to have, like, I will have the max number that I can put on his rushing yards week 1. I mean, obviously that helps, especially when you're talking about a quarterback's rushing yards starting off hot, because it's a quarterback. Somebody brought up Anthony Richardson. So it's like, yeah, he can get injured. But if you're off to a hot start, that doesn't alleviate all the pressure, but it makes it a hell of a lot easier.
It also alleviates the early bitching.
Yeah. And it's not just the Bucks too. Like in the front half of their schedule, I think the rushing opportunities for quarterbacks, or for him specifically, is a lot higher than the back end of the schedule. So again, definitely helps with the risk of injury when you're talking about a quarterback running.
Yep. Trent, thoughts on Jaden Daniels' rushing yards?
I love it. I think I got to keep it in the Jovan goat whales.
Yeah, it's not a Trent goat whale square.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about how I feel about rookies in the goat whale.
Yeah, high risk, high reward. I'm with you.
I don't have anyone catching balls.
We want to look at some receivers. You want to look at some wide receivers?
Please, I have no one in mind.
Let's take a peep. First off, we got a jewel break coming in from Koala. So W there. We got Achilles coming in, resubbing. He said, did we discuss Lamar Jackson passing yards being bumped down by 300 yards? That's crazy if it did.
Yeah, it's been bumped down 50
300
times,
yards.
That was just one time too. It's been bumped down like a total of like 700 at this point.
Okay. W Gates as well. Safe travels back home. Chat, drop some W Gateses. He's been absolutely grinding his butt off. Gates, safe travels home. Okay. Let's look at some receivers, gents. And let's look at some guys who Trent, wouldn't mind potentially throwing in a goat whale. So we'll stay away from the nasty Krabs unders. All right.
Yeah. Any
of these guys towards the top, Jovan, who you're thinking has a legacy season? I mean, look how high some of these guys receiving yards season squares are at. Tyreek Hill's almost at 1,400 yards.
Yeah.
Can stay away from him. I don't know about Jay Jetta's new QB. I mean, look, I probably wouldn't fade him, to be completely honest with you. I don't mind that, but it looks like that might have gotten bumped down, considering it's in between two guys at 1,300 on the boards, and he's way lower. That looks like that might have gotten bumped down. CeeDee Lamb, he does his thing, but he's also due to get hurt or due to have a down year. They got Marvin up there. I don't mind that Jamar Chase square either, but I know you're already talking about Joe Burrow. Any of these goats up here on the board, Jovan, looking at you funny? Besides your goat, Sam Laporta, of course.
Of course, yeah. Laporta tonsils, of course. But I don't know. This is a tough year for some of the GOATs because, like, I obviously don't want to buy high on any of the top 3 there between Tyreek, Jay Jettas, and CeeDee Lamb for pretty obvious reasons. Buying high on guys that have seasons like that 2 years in a row is not the best thing to do financially, or if you're talking about drafting them in your fantasy lineup. So I wouldn't recommend that necessarily. If there's a GOAT that I would take, probably would be Jamar Chase. But again, we're talking about doubling up between Burrow and Chase. I don't know. This is tough because, like,
It's so tough, dude.
the 2 guys that I would take are guys that are on the same team. So, like, I would love Chase, but that's not stacking with Burrow. And I wouldn't mind A.J. Brown, too, in the Kellen Moore offense. But
Wow.
I like Saquon a little more if we're talking about the guy.
You
This
know,
is tough.
it definitely is tough. It's kind of weird to me that Terry McLaurin's at 925.5. I know he's got a new QB. Maybe they're going to be running the ball more than we think, but the guy's had 1,000 yards with the most new shit quarterbacks every year of his NFL career. And they're dropping him down to 925.5. That gives me Mike Evans vibes. I'm not saying I want to fade Terry McLaurin, but that dude is just built different. And who's to say he doesn't get another 1,000-yard season?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah. I don't hate that. Don't hate that one bit, Krabs.
Trent, who on this board, some big name guys, were you thinking that you'd like in the go well? And I'm sure you're only trying to take more thans in this puppy, right?
It's Mario Douglas.
Bruh.
No way you just said Pop Douglas, bro. I mean, it's probably air, dude. Didn't you bring up some Trey McBride slurpage?
I love Trey McBride, but is he goat whale worthy?
He might be, dude.
Trey McBride breakout season? Is that what we're talking
Breakout
about over here in
season,
this
man?
economy?
Or was
I
that
guess.
last year?
Yeah, it was kind of last year. But
I
I mean, now
guess.
they have Marvin, so it's a little different.
I'm definitely like got him on my mind. Pause.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see why you're having trouble finding some receivers, Trent.
Dude, it's tough, bro.
Yeah. I mean, there's some guys catching my eye, but I just don't know if these are Trent Go Well players, dude. Like,
What if we fucking went full MMG on this bitch?
full stackage.
The
Right.
Phil's Utley MMG special.
That could be, I mean, that's W correlation.
Plus EV.
It could be so plus EV, dude. That could be the answer.
All right, let me ask you this. I'm trying to find the number that he's at on the books. I don't think they have him up on the books, which is kind of soft. But what about Marquise Brown on his new team, Kansas City Chiefs, sitting at 750.5 receiving yards? What do we think about Hollywood Brown on his new team, who's had some trouble this offseason, getting pulled over again? Down year last year, I feel like, really didn't do anything crazy. I think he was hurt sometimes as well. What about buying stock in Marquise Brown, who's got insane speed, giving him a Tyreek Hill type guy who's actually kind of decent, not the fake good receiver they brought in last year, and everyone talked like it was a big deal. Marquise Brown could play, and he's still looking to prove to the league that he's got good hands and he doesn't have yip fingers after drops in Baltimore and drops with his last squad. So I wouldn't mind a Marquise Brown bounce back year.
I wouldn't hate
Does
him.
he pass? Does he pass and check all the boxes off the field though? You gotta have
Definitely not.
I don't know if he does that.
He could cause some off the field concerns for your go well. Yes, and he could rub off on the rest of that squad. So I'm a little bit worried about that.
About
Shit.
fucking off the field drama.
Yeah, he's got some. What about the Packers guys? Right, I think the Packers will be a little bit better than people think this year. I want to buy stock in Jordan Love. I know it's a popular angle, but I really like what I'm seeing up there in Green Bay. They've got a couple receivers up: Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jalen Reed, who's probably my favorite guy to target at 749.5. Who's to say a receiver on the Packers, who I think are going to be in some high-scoring games this season? Who's to say Jalen Reed can't go over his number?
Could be Jaden Reed. I'm definitely not a Watson guy.
Yeah, neither am I. I think he's toast.
Injuries are a part of it, but like I just can't do with that guy. But Jaden Reed could have a lot of opportunities. I would not mind a Jordan Love backing in some form in the go well.
Neither would I.
There is just a lot of mouths to feed though, which I guess is the issue.
DJ Moore on the Bears.
See, the problem that I have with the Bears, I mean, similar problem. Like, there's a couple of mouths to feed between him, Keenan Allen, and like Roma Dunze. But like, I feel like Caleb Williams is going to develop a guy, between one of the three of them, and we're just not going to know who that is until we see a couple games under his belt. That's my problem.
Yeah, Keenan Allen's at 850.5. DJ Moore's at 974.5. Jeesh. Huh.
Look at
Drake
this
London.
MMG stack I got going on here.
Wow. MMG stackage.
Yeah.
Goff, Laporta, Burrow, Chase. That could be some never before done go well shit, Trent.
What about the Rams receivers? Are we buying stock in Puka, who's at a crazy number of 1125.5? That's absurd.
Dude, I wouldn't mind just going back to Cup.
Buying stock in Cooper Kupp, but then you're betting on his injury, man. You're betting on his health. But he's all the way, he's up to 949.5 receiving yards. That's high as shit for what he did last year.
Yeah, the thing with Cup is that, I mean, he's still, despite, the flash of brilliance that we saw from Puka last year, which I don't think is going anywhere, like, he's still Stafford's guy at the end of the day.
They still get breakfast at 5 a.m. every day.
They still do that. And, like, not that I don't know if he needs every single game to hit this, because he's going to have a couple of those games where he just goes for 13 catches and 140.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, would help this immensely.
What about a Chris Olave season after shitting the bed last year in New Orleans? He's up at 1,099.5 yards. That's crazy.
I mean, they're going to be throwing a lot. I think the Saints are going to be the worst team in the division, but Derek Carr is who you're trusting, which is kind of the issue.
Olave, some might consider him the unluckiest receiver in the NFL last season.
I mean, he kind of was. I was a fantasy owner, and I was kind of in ratchet.
His receiving yards on the books is at the same number, 1050.5, and the odds are split.
Goots,
or it's actually a little lower on the books.
I got a Saints guy that I think might be the Rashid Shaheed of this year. I don't know if it's him.
Who?
You might know him. Lil Bub Means.
Oh, no way.
The GOAT.
Who? I think he's going to get time.
I think he's going to get time. Bub Means out of Pitts.
Bub
He was their
Means.
best receiver last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was a stud on
Sixth-round
Pitt.
pick this
I
year.
think if you're going to see a receiver, especially in that division, come out of nowhere and be like a guy that wins you a couple fantasy matchups with crazy random performances, like at some point in the season, I think it's going to be him, especially if they're throwing the ball a lot, because I think they will be, because they're going to be bad.
Can we go to George Pickens touchdowns real quick?
George Pickens touchdowns.
Chat's talking about it.
Chat is talking about it. Is that just you?
I bet
The
Chat's
chat,
talking
look
about
at that.
Oh, there is. There's a chat up there.
4.5.
4.5 tutties. So what's his deal? Didn't he absolutely stink the last couple of years? Pretty
No,
much?
he's had 1,000. He's had 1,000 yards his last 2 years. He averaged 19.6 yards per
Pickens.
Pickens.
I'm thinking Deontay Johnson, who's now on the Panthers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
1,000 yards last 2 years. He averaged 19.6 yards per catch last year.
Yeah.
He's the number one now, and they're gonna probably trade for a better receiver.
They probably are going to trade, to be honest. If he's going anywhere, Brandon Ayuk, it's probably the Steelers.
I sure damn hope so.
Yeah.
They're going to be passing. The run is going to be the focus, but they're going to be passing. I mean,
they're going to be losing games. Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be losing games, but
well, then how are they going to be passing?
I mean, 4.5 to me for Pickens is too low. He hasn't been putting up touchdowns like that.
What's he done the last couple
at
of
that
years?
rate, like touchdown wise?
Yeah.
Definitely not too many. But he's the number one now, but realistically, or 1A, 1B if they get someone else.
I mean,
and they're going to be passing because they have better quarterbacks to throw touchdowns with this
He
year.
had 5 last year. He had 4 in his rookie year.
And how long were those touchdowns? Because I feel like at least
Probably presume a little long.
I would think they would be longer, and they got one of the best deep ball throwers, even though people don't want to admit it, in the NFL. One thing Russell Wilson can do, even if he's inconsistent, even if he's not making reads, that dude can throw a damn deep ball. And I can guarantee you he's going to be doing that.
And they have a quarterback that throws touchdown passes. I mean, Pickett only threw 6 for us last year.
Yeah, threw 6, and Pickens caught 4 of them.
Right.
Huh. It could be a little forced. Could be a little biased.
It could be a little forced. Yeah, definitely a little biased.
I don't hate it. I actually got one more receiver I want to talk about, and then I want to hear if Trent's got any more guys he wants to breeze over. What about so last season, let me break this down. Last year was the Tyreek Hill year. Last year, Tyreek Hill went absolutely bonkers. Tyreek Hill, did he end up breaking the records? I don't think he did, but it was damn near close.
Came just short.
Yeah, just short maybe towards the end of the season. Either way, he put up an absolute legacy season. Crazy stats. You know who kind of fell a little behind in the shadows? Who not a lot of people are talking about this year? Jalen Waddle. Nobody's talking about Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle last season definitely took a little bit of a step back. Still had over 1,000 yards, which is crazy. Nobody's talking about it. Haven't heard a peep.
How many
But
touchdowns did he have?
he had 4 touchdowns only last year. But before that, he had 8 and 6.
Yep.
So definitely a down year last year. Still had almost as many catches, like receptions, as he had in 2022. But the yards were down. The touchdowns were down because they were feeding Tyreek Hill in the end zone. That's who they're trying to get the ball to. And his average catch was only 4 yards compared to 8.7 the year before. So it seemed like when Tyreek Hill got involved, some things were changing a little bit for Jaden Waddle. But Tyreek Hill, I feel like he's peaked at this point. I'm not betting for an injury. I'm not rooting for an injury. Tyreek Hill's great for the sport on the field, but I wouldn't be shocked if Tyreek Hill gets a little hammy injury or something this year. It's been a little too quiet, I feel like, for Tyreek Hill, who's been relatively healthy the last couple of years. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Jalen Waddle's season, and he's the one that comes through.
Trent did have this exact comment last year.
I almost put it in last year.
Yeah.
Maybe you were patient and you were a year early, and this is the year to take Jalen Waddle, who is up for, I believe, over 1,000 yards. Yeah, 999 and a half on the books. He's at 1,000.5, so nothing crazy there. But I think it could be Jalen Waddle bounce back year. I think the Dolphins will be worse than people think, aka they'll have to pass way more in these games to come back. I like that Jalen Waddle angle. I think it could be fade Tyreek or, for a fun square, back Waddle.
Yeah.
What's his TDs at? 5?
Yeah.
Bro.
On the books, he's at 5.5. Huh. If I had to bet, if I was a betting man, I'd say that number's probably moving up. And it probably was not at 5.5 originally.
Would you take his yards or TDs?
I would probably take his yards, to be honest with you. I kind of want to back him for a whole season after missing a couple games last year and being banged up. And I'd probably just take his yards. And I'm a little bit worried if Tyreek does stay healthy, they're going to run the same bullshit towards, in the red zone and only feed him the ball, really. I'd just stick with yards for him to get a rack once again this year. They'll be passing plenty.
Can I hear you out on Devontae Adams and what you think about him?
Ooh. Jovan?
I just feel like that's not a situation that's worth it because, we don't know where he's going to be. Will he eventually get to move to the Jets? Who knows? But, you're betting on Gardner Minshew throwing him the ball at this point, which is, I don't know if you want to lay your head down and to go well. And even though it's Devontae Adams, kind of rest your head on that. That's just I want to believe in the bounce back year, regardless of where he is. It's just, I don't know if I can do that, man. Yeah, I don't know what Brock Bowers is going to look like year one, but that's an addition to that offense too. I don't know.
Yeah, he's at 999.5 after having more yards than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each of his last 6 years. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know about that guy.
Trent's got the touchdown squares up now. Which one? I need you to lock eyes on a Laporta-like square towards the bottom and tell me which one you think is it. There's got to be one down there.
I'm looking at the tutties. I want to back Chris Olave, I think, this season. I don't know if it's for tutties. I don't know if it's for yards. But I think I'm going to have Chris Olave in some sort of entry for the season.
Legit nothing, dude. Nothing. I cannot believe this is the board.
Maybe it's that George Pickens touchdowns from Rav.
You know what I kind of think it is? I've had trouble picking a guy, but we've talked about the Jags. Between Brian Thomas, Evan Ingram, I don't know if I want it to be Christian Kirk, but I think one of those guys are going to be huge parts of the offense. Ingram, I don't know if anybody paid attention to the second half of the season when I think he was on his touchdown streak where he hadn't scored in almost a calendar year or whatever it was. I remember we took him on Monday Night Football to score a touchdown. I think he scored 2. That second half of the season, he started to get a much bigger role in the offense, especially in the red zone. So maybe I kind of think it's going to be him. I love Brian Thomas too, but I might throw a little Evan Ingram target in there. I think he's going to be big.
Evan Ingram, that would be disgusting.
Are you guys going to be talking Go Will squares for much longer? I'm going to go take Manny out, and I was going to bring him back up.
No, we're probably gonna wrap up soon. Honestly, I gotta dip soon.
Okay.
Yeah, Krabs got to go.
Any other questions or guys you want to talk through? And we could do this again next week, Trent. I'm sure the people would love talking about some of these prize pick squares. But any other guys you want to go over real quick? Any goats?
You fading Brotherly?
I want to
Wait,
fade
I
his.
meant to ask you, is it yards or tutties for Saquon?
I like the yards.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
You know what I would like taken, which is probably not going to be a Trent square, but could be a good angle here. Last year, my biggest regret was not putting Jalen Hurts less than picks in the go well. I regretted it the entire season. I want to fade Jalen Hurts this year. Enough is enough. But last year was probably the year to do it, so we got to pick a smarter way to do it this season. What about his less than 10.5 rushing touchdowns, Jovan?
I think that's it, dude.
You talk about him not, potentially trying to get banged up and hurt like he was last year. They're going to try to preserve him. They bring in Saquon for the goal lines as well. Like, how do they not hand the ball off to Saquon now?
Yeah.
Absolute bruiser.
He has no Kelsey in front of him now.
True.
That was the heart of the Brotherly.
No brotherly shoot.
Yeah. they'll still probably do it. Just I don't think it'll be nearly as much.
Huh.
And again, like you bring in a guy like Saquon for this exact reason. He's not like a bruiser per se, but like you're not going out and getting, demolishing your whole system of running back by committee just to get a guy that you're not going to use, especially on the goal line.
Yep.
That's part of the reason why I like Saquon as a whole, but especially here. I don't think this is going to be such a big part of the Kellen Moore offense. I think Saquon is.
Any tackles and assist squares?
Dude, that like 85% of that board has gone under for like 3 years in a row. So they all look beautiful, and I've put them in some sneak entries, and they just none of the tackles. It's the craziest less than hit rate of all time.
Trent, man, I think you're on the right track.
We're on the right track here. I want
a lot of these squares.
I want the Bijan combo, but we're on the right track. I'm missing a touchdown square. And if it's up, I want to hear your thoughts really fast.
Let's see if we can comb through the touchdown squares board one more time. See if anybody sticks out. And you want it to be a more than, right? You don't want any less thans on there.
They don't have McBride TDs. A McTuddy for the go.
That could be it, dude. I like where your head's at.
What about Bowers? Didn't Michael Mayer get targeted a lot in the end zone last year?
I think for a couple weeks. Michael Mayer was like invisible for most of the season.
He dropped off. He fell off.
Oh, really?
They had like a week or two where he was like, I don't know, actually a part of the offense, but not all season.
Not going to waste your time talking about Jahan Dotson passing touch or receiving touchdowns.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm telling you, dude, Chris Olave, I want to see what he's at on the books for touchdowns because it could be the Chris Olave revenge season. People are starting to talk. He's at 5.5.
Can I hear your thoughts on McBride?
I like McBride. I think that's a pretty solid square. I'm surprised to hear you like it because he's not such a big name, but I'd be ecstatic.
He's goated. He led my fantasy team to a victory. And I like the situation.
Let me look at his stats.
Yeah, towards the end of last year, like what? Who were his wide receivers he was working with on the outside? It was Michael Wilson.
Yep.
It was Greg Dortch.
Yep.
There wasn't like a true guy that was going to attract too much attention outside of, I don't know, the occasional appearance. It's like now you got a true guy in Marvin Harrison there who's going to get a lot of attention, which not that nobody knows about Trey McBride, but it might be good for him.
Looks like his touchdowns on the books are at 4.5. The over's -130, Trent, for touchdowns.
Dude, 4.5
they don't have that up, though.
McBride, 4.5 McTuddy.
4.5 McBride. Square is up. It's in.
It's not up.
I know it's not in. It's not up right now. But I can make a corp call.
Yeah, you can make a call. And I hope you get it at 4.5, not 5, because the over's getting juicy.
Yeah.
Juicy.
The difference.
Yeah, you might want to ask for that now before it gets any juicier. To be
Well, I have confirmation that there's these categories coming up next Monday.
What do we got? What cats?
field goals made, receptions, interceptions, 300-yard passing games, 100-yard rushing games, 100-yard receiving games, 50-yard field goals.
Dude, I might set an alarm for Monday when the interceptions drop. Hopefully those are quarterback interceptions, not defensive interceptions.
We got the next wave of squares dropping on Monday.
Dude, the Josh Allen, when that drops.
Jeesh.
I'm telling you right now, if that drops, what did he have? 15, 14, 18? If that number is 13.5 or lower, it's in my goat whale, no questions asked. Not a single question asked. If it is lower after he just had a record-setting interception year, and they're going to put it at lower than it was his last 3 seasons, if that ends up being the line, it's in the goat whale.
Wait, what does the line have to be?
13.5, because you got 18, 15, 14 his last 3 seasons. So if it's lower than all of those seasons, it's going in the goat whale because he ain't getting 14. That's going to be literally like Dak.
Yeah. Fuck, dude. I might have to consider that.
Yeah. And then we might, once that second wave drops, we might have to circle back around to another conversation about some squares.
Yeah, probably Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern sharp. 12:30 p.m.
Dak
Eastern
was
sharp.
air, bro.
Dak was literally air.
Yep.
Nobody loved it. That was the one square everybody thought was selling Trent's goat whale. Every single comment.
Huh.
And it was the only one to hit.
Who gave that one to you, Trent?
That was all you, Krabs.
Yeah, that was a crab square.
Crazy. People wanted me murdered in a ditch for that square. People wanted me buried 6 feet under for talking about that square. And then after it hits, silence. Nothing.
Silence, dude.
Literally silent as a church mouse. Unbelievable. That was a good one. And we need to get way more in the lab than we are right now, Trent. We're just getting started. Okay, we got a new wave of squares coming up on Monday. Why don't you go take that dog out? We'll pick this up next week again. We'll get you on BTL, Trent, and we'll start to really hit this hard on the Prize Pick Sports.
Sounds great.
Sound like a plan? I like what you brought to the table, though, Trent. I think you're on the right track. All right?
Thank you, sirs.
Dubs. Yes, sir. We'll be seeing.
GG's.
GG. Third stream back tomorrow, chat. Could be a massive development, and we'll be back tomorrow. You better be there.
Better be there.
You better be there.
Have to be there.
All right. I got one more thing I want to talk about. Jovan, if you have anything else you want to tie up some loose ends, feel free, go ahead. But I got one more hot take for you guys.
Sure.
Before we cut the show off. After a legacy season last year, the Lions will miss the playoffs in 2024. Okay, last year was the Lions' year. People were in the streets celebrating this team. They finally won a playoff game. Great for the city. They needed it more than air. Probably needed it more than the Commanders fans, to be honest with you. But now it's our turn. The Lions, you know I had to mention the Commanders.
Krabs.
Come on. The Lions last year,
You're losing
unbelievable.
me.
Unbelievable. Okay. They're plus 195 to miss the playoffs this year, though. And I think that's some serious value. Okay. They got 3 other teams in that division that I think are all going to be better this season. The Packers, I want to buy stock in. The Bears, I think, could be better. I like the momentum they had at the end of last season. I think they'll be more of a defensive-minded team that leans on guys like Montez Sweat and co. And it's not going to be all Caleb Williams early on, but they've got a high ceiling, that Bears team. There's a reason why they brought that staff back. They like what they saw at the end of last season, and I like how they finished the year. The Vikings, I think, will be better than people expect this season. They think Kirk Cousins left. Oh, they're going to be no shit. They're going to go 0-16, 0-17. No. This is still a Kevin O'Connell offense that's going to be elite. They still have Justin Jefferson. They still have a good offensive line. They have an okay defense, nothing crazy, but we know that team does not win with defense. That team wins with their offense, and I think they'll be a tough beat this year as well. If you can't tell, I really like the division the Lions are in this year, and I think they might take a step back, like I've talked about a lot with the Texans. The Lions are probably going to be the second most bet on future in this team to back after what we saw last season. I don't blame them. Jared Goff, what a year. Good for him. He deserved it. Okay. He worked his butt off and ended up, making himself a staple in the NFL when nobody believed he was even a starter after he left the Rams. But the fantasy story is over. Okay. The party's ended. It's time to leave. Okay. The Lions, after their opponents have another year, an offseason of film on Jared Goff and co., after they have a much tougher schedule this season, after a great year in 2023, I want to fade stock in this team. And I wouldn't be surprised, even in their moose shit conference, if the Lions miss the playoffs. I thought they would be plus 300 to miss the playoffs after last season. They're only plus 195. That's worth a sprinkle to me. It's not going to be easy. It's still almost plus 200, guys, but I would not be shocked if the Lions finish in 3rd or 4th place in that division and miss the playoffs.
I think this is one where your head's in the right spot with some form of regression. but I still think they're making the playoffs. Like the Eagles.
Wow.
It's like the Eagles. Like you were spot on with them not being the same Eagles that everybody expected. And we
Right.
saw first half of the season and then came down to Tampa and got their shit rocked. I could see the same thing happening to the Lions. I still think they're not going to be as good, but I think they're a playoff team.
So you're telling me don't get too cute. Maybe stick with an under wins for the
Yes.
Lions instead of trying to take the plus 200.
I feel
towards
like
the playoffs.
I feel like that's one where you don't need to go for the jugular.
Mm.
I think you're in the right headspace.
That could be W advice. That could be. You're probably right. It does feel like the Eagles take from last year that was spot on, but too cute.
Yeah, you went too big with it.
I know.
Too big
far.
with it.
You're right. Let's reel it back in. Let's just fade the Lions on their win total this year. Okay.
Sure.
Sign me up.
Sure.
Jovan, any other Phil's nugs? Any other comments, thoughts, concerns?
Well, I can sum up my hot take.
Please.
Or I guess two of them that we've already kind of touched on. I think the guy that's going to have a CMC level of production for your fantasy teams and for your goat whales is Saquon Barkley on the Eagles. So, I mean, probably a little less receiving upside. Obviously, nobody has the receiving upside out of the backfield that McCaffrey does, but they brought him over here for a reason. Giants fans are going to be drowning when Saquon has a season that he does for the Eagles. So I'm all in on Saquon. And then I kind of agree with Trent. He's talked me into it. Josh Allen has finished with, I don't know, do the math in my head, 47 picks in his last 3 seasons. I think he has by far the lowest numbers that he's had in those last 3 seasons. I believe he had in his first 2 full seasons where he played 16 games. I believe he had 10 and 9. I think that number is going to come damn close to where he is this year, Krabs.
Huh.
So I think we're about to see a much more conservative Josh Allen. We've been expecting to see it for a couple seasons. Now he just set the record for interceptions, and God knows it's coming back down to earth this year.
Yeah. Sign me up. I'm in. I've been on the Bills train the last 2 seasons, and it screwed me over. But what's one more? Sure. And look, the graphic of Josh Allen throwing in the most picks in NFL history that goes on every single fucking NFL game the Bills play in, it's literally frozen in my fucking eyelid. Every time I close my eyes, I see that graphic because it was on every weekend, every game. Okay? That's the narrative we want to fade, folks, because these guys are professional athletes. These guys are the best at their, game. They're unbelievable. Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You don't think he's going to make any adjustments? Guys, if it was as easy as taking what happened last year to happen this year, we would be on our own private island in Cabo and we would have taken the books for everything they got. It's not that fucking easy. Use your brains. Read the room. Okay? Understand that last season's over. This season, it's a new beginning. It's completely different. And I want to buy stock in the Bills and Josh Allen. I love that angle of taking his less than interceptions.
I want to find a nugget too, because there's got to be some hit rate on guys. They have like the highest, interception numbers of their career, and they're that high, like at 15 plus. They've got to have some trend to go under the next year.
Have to,
especially when they're a big media narrative like Josh Allen was and like Dak was.
Yeah.
So we got to get in the lab. I'm interested to see what the line drops for. I don't know what I want it to be, because I want it to be low, so it's pretty indicative of what's going to happen. But at the same time, I do want as much cushion as I can get, because I feel like I don't need the line to be telling.
Yep.
Fade that.
I'm with you. I cannot wait for the NFL season coming up, guys. We're about 5 weeks out, maybe 6. We're getting there. Okay, we got a new wave of squares dropping. It's like Call of Duty Zombies. New wave dropping on Monday. Okay, we got all new squares, all new categories coming in. Maybe we fire up the old NFL season prize pick screen share for the BTL on Monday. Maybe we get Trent involved and talk about some of these squares that pop up. Javon setting his alarm for 12 p.m. that night before, so you can see all the squares that drop. It's going to be team no sleep.
It's going to be Christmas.
It's going to be Christmas Eve.
Really just waiting for that one square, honestly.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Okay. W's. Krabs, respectfully, I hope your Lions under win total rots and piss. Okay. Thank you, SBR. Sure.
It's all right, SBR. I have Laporta might go well.
All right, chat. W stream, W show. Happy to go over some NFL stuff here with you before I head back to the DMV. We will have a BTL tomorrow. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. Okay, stick around. We'll have the Surge stream as well back tomorrow with the MLB season second half picking up. Okay, W's. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. I hope you at least minimally enjoyed the Zach Campbell documentary last night. I know you guys enjoyed the College Football 25 gameplay. We will be doing more of that in the coming days. Okay, so stick with us. Make sure you're tapped in. Check all the socials. Check the Bookit Twitter. All right, plenty of action going on. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place.
Yes, sir.
We'll be seeing. W's.